My name is Sarah, and I never saw it coming. It started with small changes. Canceled plans, vague excuses, my boyfriend Alex becoming increasingly distant, my best friend Megan suddenly being too busy to hang out. Looking back, the signs were all there, flashing like neon warning lights. But I trusted them both completely. That was my first mistake. Alex and I had been together for 3 years. We met in our final year of college and everything just clicked. He was charming, ambitious, and made me laugh like no one else could. We moved in together 6 months after graduation, and I thought we were building something real, something that would last. Megan had been my best friend since high school. We survived the awkward teenage years together, shared every secret, supported each other through breakups and family drama. She was the sister I never had. When I started dating Alex, she was thrilled for me. "He's perfect for you," she'd gushed after meeting him for the first time. "You guys are gonna last forever." The irony of those words isn't lost on me now. The day everything fell apart was ordinary in every way. I came home early from work, a surprise half-day that I was excited about. I thought I'd clean the apartment, maybe cook something special for when Alex got home. What I didn't expect was to find text messages on his iPad that he'd left on the kitchen counter. Messages to Megan. Dozens of them. Intimate, loving messages that stretched back for months. Plans they'd made together. Things they'd done while I was working late or out of town. Photos they'd exchanged that made my stomach turn. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. I couldn't breathe. I sat at our kitchen table, scrolling through message after message, each one another knife in my heart. They'd been seeing each other for nearly 7 months. 7 months of lies. 7 months of betrayal. 7 months of them laughing behind my back. There was a message from just that morning. "I can't wait until we can finally be together without hiding. I hate lying to Sarah, but it'll be worth it when we can start our real life." Alex was planning to break up with me. They were just waiting for the right moment, like I was some inconvenient obstacle in their great love story. I was still sitting there, staring blankly at the wall when Alex came home. He knew immediately that something was wrong. Then he saw his iPad on the table in front of me, and his face went pale. "Sarah," he started, his voice already pleading. "I can explain." "Explain what?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. "Explain how you've been sleeping with my best friend for 7 months? Explain how you've been lying to my face every single day? Please, Alex, I'd love to hear your explanation." He fumbled through excuses and apologies. He never meant to hurt me. It just happened. They tried to fight their feelings. They felt terrible about it. All the classic lines from someone caught doing something unforgivable. "Get out," I finally said, cutting him off mid-sentence. "Pack your things and get out of my apartment." "Sarah, please," he begged. "We need to talk about this. I still care about you." "If you cared about me," I said, standing up, "you wouldn't have been screwing my best friend behind my back. Get out." He left that night, taking only what he needed. I sat in our half-empty apartment, numb with shock and betrayal. My phone kept buzzing with messages from Megan. She'd heard from Alex, of course. Her messages ranged from apologetic to defensive. "We didn't plan for this to happen. You have to believe me. I never wanted to hurt you." Sometimes feelings develop and you can't control them. I blocked her number without responding. The next few weeks were a blur of pain and anger. I cried until I had no tears left. I threw out everything that reminded me of either of them. I deleted photos, blocked them on social media, tried to erase them from my life completely. But the pain lingered, a constant companion that followed me everywhere. Alex moved in with Megan a month after our breakup. They made it official on social media, posting couple photos with captions about finding unexpected love. They didn't mention how that love had been built on lies and betrayal. They painted themselves as star-crossed lovers who couldn't deny their connection, conveniently leaving out the part where they'd betrayed someone who trusted them both. Our mutual friends were uncomfortable but largely stayed neutral. "It's complicated," they'd say, not wanting to take sides. These things happen, as if what Alex and Megan had done was just an unfortunate incident like a fender bender or a missed flight, rather than a deliberate choice to betray someone who loved them. I felt like I was going crazy, like I was the only one who saw how wrong the whole situation was. The injustice of it burned inside me, keeping me awake at night. They had taken my trust, my love, my friendship, and trampled all over it. And now they were playing house together, building their relationship on the ruins of mine, while I was left to pick up the pieces alone. That's when I decided I wouldn't just move on. I wouldn't just accept what they'd done and disappear quietly from their lives. No, I was going to make sure they understood exactly what they'd done. I was going to make sure they paid for it. My plan wasn't about loud confrontations or public scenes. It was subtler than that, more calculated. I wanted them to experience what I had felt. The slow, creeping realization that someone you trusted completely was betraying you. I started by appearing to accept their relationship. 3 months after our breakup, I reached out to Megan. My message was simple. I've had time to think, and while I'm still hurt, I understand that feelings aren't always controllable. Life is too short for permanent grudges. I miss my friend. She responded immediately, full of relief and gratitude. She'd been so worried about me. She'd missed me too. She was so sorry for how everything had happened. She hoped we could rebuild our friendship. I agreed to meet her for coffee the following week. When I saw her waiting at our old favorite cafe, looking nervous but hopeful, I steeled myself for what I needed to do. I walked in, face carefully composed, in an expression of cautious warmth. "Megan," I said, giving her a brief hug, "it's good to see you." "Sarah," she said, her eyes filling with tears, "I can't tell you how much this means to me. I've been so worried about you." We talked for hours. I let her apologize, let her explain herself, let her believe that I was starting to understand. I asked about her life, about how things were going with Alex. I nodded and smiled in all the right places. I played the role of the mature, forgiving friend who was moving on with her life. "I'm seeing someone new," I told her, the lie sliding easily from my lips. "It's early days, but he's really great. Different from Alex, but maybe that's a good thing." Her relief was palpable. If I was dating someone new, it meant I was over Alex. It meant she didn't need to feel guilty anymore. "That's amazing, Sarah," she said, squeezing my hand. "I'm so happy for you. You deserve someone wonderful." I smiled. We all deserve to be happy, don't we? Over the next few weeks, I carefully rebuilt my relationship with Megan. We started texting regularly again, meeting for coffee or lunch. I even agreed to a dinner with her and Alex, showing them both that I had moved on, that I was fine with their relationship now. That dinner was the hardest thing I've ever done. Sitting across from them, watching them hold hands, seeing the love in their eyes when they looked at each other, it took everything in me not to scream. But I maintained my composure. I smiled and laughed and talked about my fictional new boyfriend. I acted like the bigger person, the one who could rise above the hurt they'd caused me. And they believed it. They believed I had forgiven them. They believed I wanted them to be happy. They believed I was their friend again. That's when the real work began. I started with small comments to Megan when we were alone. Nothing direct, just seeds of doubt carefully planted. "Alex seems different somehow," I'd say casually. "More reserved than he was when we were together. Is everything okay with you guys?" Or, "It's funny, I never thought Alex would be your type. He was always so flirtatious with other women when we were dating, but I'm sure it's different with you." I'd follow these comments with reassurances, but hey, people change. I'm sure he's totally committed to you now. With Alex, I took a different approach. We'd occasionally run into each other when he wasn't with Megan, and I'd be friendly but distant. I made sure he knew I was doing well without him, that I had moved on completely. "You know," I said during one of these encounters, "Megan seems really happy. She deserves it after everything she went through with her ex before you. Did she ever tell you about him, how he cheated on her constantly? It really did a number on her trust issues." Alex frowned slightly. She mentioned an ex who treated her badly, but she didn't go into details. I nodded sympathetically. She wouldn't. She's very private about it, but just be patient with her if she gets jealous or suspicious sometimes. She can't help it after what she went through. I watched the information settle in his mind, the slight furrow in his brow as he processed it. Perfect. Over the next few months, I continued my campaign. With Megan, I'd occasionally mention running into Alex at places I knew he hadn't told her he'd been. "Oh, I thought you knew he was there," I'd say, innocently, when she looked confused. Maybe I was mistaken. With Alex, I'd drop hints about Megan's possessive tendencies and fear of abandonment from past relationships. I'd make it sound like I was trying to help him understand her better, like I was being a supportive friend to them both. The real turning point came at a mutual friend's birthday party. I arrived early to help set up and was there when Alex arrived, without Megan. He explained she was running late, stuck at work. I nodded sympathetically and went back to arranging drinks. But throughout the evening, I made sure to be visible to Alex, talking and laughing with other guests, particularly one of his friends, Ryan. Ryan and I had always gotten along well, and there was a natural ease to our conversation. I made sure to stand a little too close, to touch his arm when I laughed at his jokes, to create a picture of subtle flirtation that would be noticeable to anyone watching, especially Alex. When Megan finally arrived, I greeted her warmly and immediately mentioned how I'd been catching up with Ryan. "He's so funny," I said. "We've been talking for ages." Alex was here too, of course, but he's been busy mingling. I watched her eyes scan the room, finding Alex deep in conversation with another woman, seemingly oblivious to Megan's arrival. It wasn't anything inappropriate, just friendly conversation, but, from Megan's perspective, colored by my careful comments over the past months, it might look different. I stayed close to Megan for the rest of the night, watching her watch Alex. I saw the way her smile became fixed when he talked to other women, the way she inserted herself into his conversations, the slightly desperate way she kept physical contact with him, a hand on his arm or around his waist, marking her territory. And I saw Alex's growing irritation at what he clearly perceived as clingy, possessive behavior, exactly what I'd primed him to expect from her. The next day, I texted Megan. "Great party last night. Is everything okay with you and Alex? You seemed a little tense." Her response came quickly. "Did it seem that way? IDK, sometimes I get a weird feeling when he talks to other women. I know it's stupid." "Not stupid at all," I replied. "Trust your instincts. You know him better than anyone." Another seed planted. 2 weeks later, Megan called me in tears. She and Alex had had a huge fight. He'd accused her of being controlling and untrusting. She'd accused him of being secretive and distant. "I don't know what's happening, Sarah," she sobbed. "Everything was perfect and now it's falling apart." I made sympathetic noises, asked questions that I knew would only reinforce her fears. Had he been working late more often? Had he been protective of his phone? Was he being vague about his plans? "Yes," she said, sounding surprised. "How did you know?" I hesitated, as if reluctant to speak. Megan? "Those are the same things he did when he started seeing you while we were still together." Silence on the other end of the line. "I'm not saying he's cheating," I backtracked quickly. "I'm just saying, well, you know what they say, how you get them is how you lose them." The next month was a roller coaster for them. They'd fight, break up, get back together, fight again. Each time I was there for Megan, the supportive friend who never said, "I told you so." Each time I'd slip in another observation, another doubt, another worry. And with Alex, on the rare occasions I'd see him alone, I'd express concern about Megan's increasingly erratic behavior, wondering aloud if she was still processing her guilt over how their relationship started. It all came to a head at our friend Jamie's wedding. Megan and Alex were both in attendance, their relationship hanging by a thread. They'd broken up and gotten back together twice in the previous week alone. I'd been careful to maintain my image as the supportive friend, the mature ex who had moved on. I'd even brought a date to the wedding, a genuinely nice guy named David, who I'd met through work. We weren't serious, but he was handsome and charming, and most importantly made me look like I was completely over Alex. The ceremony was beautiful, the reception elegant. Everyone was dressed up, champagne was flowing, the mood was celebratory. I danced with David, laughed with our friends, played my part perfectly. Halfway through the evening, I found Megan alone at the bar, watching Alex talk to a female cousin of the bride. I slid onto the stool next to her. "Beautiful wedding," I said. She nodded, distracted. "Yeah, beautiful." I followed her gaze to Alex. "Everything okay?" She sighed. "I don't know, Sarah. I feel like I'm going crazy. I keep thinking he's, pulling away, maybe even interested in someone else." I put my hand on hers. "Megan, can I be honest with you?" She looked at me, eyes wide and vulnerable. "Of course." I didn't want to say anything because I thought maybe I was just seeing things through the lens of my own experience, but what? She pressed when I hesitated. I've noticed it too. The way he looks at other women, the way he's always checking his phone, the secrecy. I squeezed her hand. I'm worried for you. I don't want you to go through what I went through. Tears filled her eyes. What should I do? I looked thoughtful. If I could go back, I would have checked his phone. I would have known months earlier what was happening. It would have saved me so much pain. She nodded slowly, her eyes moving back to Alex, who was now laughing at something the bride's cousin had said. Maybe just make sure, I suggested gently, for your own peace of mind. I left her at the bar, went back to my date, back to enjoying the wedding. I danced and laughed and didn't think about what I'd done, or at least I pretended not to. An hour later, the first shout cut through the music, Megan's voice high and hysterical. Who the hell is Jessica? The music scratched to a halt, every head turned. In the sudden silence, Megan's voice rang out, clear and sharp, reading from Alex's phone. I can't stop thinking about last weekend. When can I see you again? Alex's face was a mask of anger and confusion. Give me my phone, Megan. You're embarrassing yourself. Embarrassing myself? She screeched. You're cheating on me and I'm embarrassing myself? I'm not cheating on you. Jessica is my coworker. We were working on a project last weekend. Oh, right, Megan laughed bitterly. A project. Is that what they're calling it these days? The argument escalated, their voices getting louder, more accusatory. She brought up his history of cheating with her, on me. He brought up her insecurity, her constant suspicion. They dragged every private issue into the open, airing all their dirty laundry in front of everyone. I watched it unfold from the sidelines, David's arm around me, my expression appropriately shocked and sympathetic. When Megan finally threw Alex's phone at him and stormed out, I waited a respectful few minutes before following her. I found her in the bathroom, mascara streaming down her face, gasping for breath between sobs. Oh, Megan, I said, pulling her into a hug. I'm so sorry. You were right, she choked out. You were right about him. He's a cheater. Once a cheater, always a cheater. I stroked her hair, making soothing noises. I know, it hurts. I don't understand, she sobbed. We were so happy. What happened? I pulled back, looked her in the eyes. Megan, the same thing that happened with me and him. He found someone new, someone exciting, the same way he found you when he was with me. Her face crumpled as the realization hit her, the full circle of karma coming back to bite her. The worst part, I said softly, is that now you know how it feels to be betrayed by someone you love, to have your trust broken. Understanding dawned in her eyes then. She looked at me, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time seeing the pain she had caused. Sarah, she whispered, did you know? Jessica isn't really... I smiled sadly. Jessica is his coworker. They really were working on a project. But you were so ready to believe the worst? Because deep down, you know what he's capable of. You know because you helped him. Do it to me. I stepped back from her, straightening my dress. You both betrayed me. You both broke my trust. And now you'll never be able to fully trust each other. You'll always wonder. You'll always doubt. Because you both know exactly what the other is capable of. I walked to the door, paused with my hand on the handle. That's the thing about betrayal, Megan. Once the trust is gone, it never really comes back. I returned to the reception, to my date, to the life I had rebuilt without them. I danced and laughed and didn't look back when Alex stormed out 20 minutes later, alone and angry. Megan and Alex broke up for good that night. Last I heard, she'd moved back to her hometown and he'd taken a job in another state. Neither of them ever confronted me about my role in their downfall. Perhaps they never realized it. Or perhaps they knew deep down that they deserved it. As for me, I moved on, eventually. The anger and hurt faded, replaced by a quiet wisdom. I learned who to trust and who to keep at a distance. I learned that revenge might feel satisfying in the moment, but true healing comes from within. But I also learned something else. Sometimes justice doesn't come from the universe. Sometimes you have to create it yourself. And sometimes the best revenge isn't about what you do to others. It's about showing them exactly who they are and letting them destroy themselves.